According to the Journal of Affective Disorders, the prevalence of paternal postpartum PTSD is approximately 4.7%. However, rates can be significantly higher for fathers whose partners experienced a particularly traumatic birth. In just a moment, you're going to meet a father who experienced birth trauma and hear his story of how a nightmare birth turned into his life's purpose. So don't go anywhere. This program is made possible by financial support from Smile Online Course and Books. Smile Online offers online courses for teens and young adults designed to help them master social and career skills. Subject matter includes customer service skills, job interviewing, electronic etiquette, and managing stress. For more information, visit thefatherhoodchallenge.com. That's thefatherhoodchallenge.com.
Welcome to the Fatherhood Challenge, a movement to awaken and inspire fathers everywhere to take great pride in their role and to challenge society to understand how important fathers are to the stability and culture of their family's environment. Now, here's your host, Jonathan Guerrero.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me in this episode called From Birth Trauma to Purpose. I'd like to introduce you to Brian Heilig. Brian is the author of Breathe, Eat, Poop, and Grow. Brian, welcome to the Fatherhood Challenge.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Appreciate you having me on, and I look forward to our chat.
Brian, what's your favorite dad joke?
What is a shark's favorite line?
What is a shark's favorite line? I have no idea.
Man overboard. So bad. So bad.
I love that one. Brian, before we get started with your story, I'd like to ask you a question for those in the audience who aren't familiar with birth trauma. What is birth trauma and how does it affect men?
It can look like many different things. For us, it was a premature birth. It could be, my friend had his baby and had to immediately have heart surgery. We've been around a lot of people, even when we were in the hospital. I mean, crazy stuff happens in the NICU, not always around a premature birth. So it can literally be 1,000 different things. But I think really the biggest issue is that nobody plans to have a birth trauma experience. I didn't even know to think about it. You're just pregnant and happy, and 9 months later you're gonna have a baby. But man, that was not the case. So it's your maybe firstborn and you're nervous about being a parent and everything, and then all of a sudden happy, and then bam, things just turn on a dime. And that's just the scariest thing. And I think for men specifically, it's very difficult because a lot of men feel like they need to be in control, and they're the ones that have to be, resilient and tough and strong and all that. But no matter what front you put on, it affects you.
It does. And I remember that there's this guilt piece of it. I didn't talk about it for a long time. I really didn't. And you feel a sense of guilt. This is supposed to be about my wife, not about me. Mm-hmm. So you suppress it and you just say, suck it up, don't deal with it. She had the harder part of this whole thing. What am I whining and crying and being a baby about it for?
Exactly.
But yeah, that should not happen. PTSD is real, and we associate PTSD from a combat field. This is a combat related thing, and this is the only place that this happens, and that's not true.
Agreed so much. It could be the silliest thing that triggers you. It could be a literal noise that was similar to a noise in the NICU, and you just get overwhelmed with either emotion or, this sense of paralyzation. And I have heard actually, and again, it's just related as far as like scientific stress on the brain, going through the NICU. And then further, and you'll hear about our story, what we're dealing with after the NICU is related, if you just look at the brain scans, to the amount of stress and trauma of combat battle. It's really crazy.
There are other men, other fathers out there who have experienced it, who have had or still have PTSD because of it. So this is not something to be ashamed of. This is something to own and this is something to address and deal with. So without any further interruptions, Brian, I'm just going to hand you the mic and just let you tell your story.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jonathan. So my wife and I met in high school. We were 15 years old, and we both came from homes that had divorce. So we were very cautious in our, moving forward in our relationship. And so everything was long. We took a long time to do everything. We were dating for a long time. We were engaged for a long time. We didn't get married until we were in our late 20s. And then we thought, well, we'll just, kids, like that's going to be a ways off. And so finally in about our mid 30s, we thought, well, shoot, we're mid 30s. We need to have a kid now, And so we just thought to ourselves, hey, if it happens, it happens. We're not going to try to not make it happen. So, we'll just let that go. And then that started getting into our later 30s and very late 30s. And then we thought, well, wait, maybe how come it's not working? It's been years. So then we got checked out and we found out that Diana was producing less eggs, and the eggs that she was producing were, just less fertile, I guess is the question. They were weak, basically. And so we then started looking at alternatives. And the one alternative that we settled on was IVF, in vitro. And so that looked like her going through an enormous amount of craziness with shots every day to the stomach, and her hormones were all over the place. And then it came to the day of extraction. So her eggs were fertile. We extracted the eggs, and then I did my part. And in a petri dish, essentially, they had to fertilize, and we were going to go back to the day of implantation. It was several days later, and we were all ready to go. Okay, we're going to implant the embryos, and the doctor called and said, don't come. None of the embryos made it. So that was our first, wait a minute, this got real serious real quick now. And it was a devastating moment. We just thought maybe we're not going to have kids. And the doctor told us all these different avenues and surrogates and this, that, and whatever. And Diana was just not having it. She's like, no. And we just went on and shared a little bit of our story just with close friends. And one of my friends from work, she said, hey, listen, I don't know if you know this or not, but we have 3 kids and we did foster to adopt on all of them. And I never thought, very ignorant about the foster program. And I had all these preconceived negative notions about it or what have you. And she said, no, just check it out. So we went, we looked at it. We went to the initiation or whatever it is, the welcome day, and we signed up. We said, okay, let's go through it. And we went through a 6-week course. The organization knew that we wanted foster to adopt. And that was a crazy experience in itself. But 2 or 3 days after we graduated, if you will, they said, hey, listen, we've got a little baby. She's 7 days old. Do you want her? And we thought, what the heck? Yes. So here we are, a 7 or 8 day old baby, and just thrown into parenthood. It was very different and crazy experience. And, it was very difficult, sleep deprivation, the whole thing, like what normal parents go through. And at 2 months, it was time to go back to court to see what the deal was as far as, is the baby going to be reunited with her birth parents or not? And the judge was not happy about what they had done. Not that it was crazy. It's not a typical, what a lot of people think is, they're on drugs and all this kind of stuff. It was just a slip up. And the judge was not happy about it, however, and he said, okay, 3 more months, and then we'll reevaluate. So we had little Eva until 5 months old, and they were doing everything that they needed to do and then some. And we knew pretty early on that we were not going to be able to keep Eva. So after 5 months, super attached, I'll never forget the day that we had to drop her off. Diana did not come with me. She's like, I can't go. And I'll never forget, I put Eva in their car. And as I closed the door, she kind of looked up at me, and man, I lost it. I was like, oh my gosh, like this little girl, she got it super attached. We were attached to her. And then we just thought, well, that's it. We're not having babies. We can't go through this again. We're not going to do the foster to adopt. We're not going to do in vitro. Like, this is just it. It is what it is. And then several years later, company that I used to work with in Mexico said, "Hey, listen, we're going to open up in Cancun. We're bringing the band back together. Do you want to come and hang out with us and open up the resort in Cancun?" And I thought, well, that could be fun. I talked to Diana, and it just so happened that our friends that lived in Cancun, one of them was the acupuncturist to the IVF doctor in Cancun, who had an enormously successful rate from in vitro to having babies. And we thought, okay. And Diana said, "I'll do it again if I'll move to Mexico if we can do the IVF." And I said, "Okay, babe, that's on you, because I don't think guys can handle that. That's for sure." And there we were. She did the in vitro again, and oh my goodness, she got pregnant. So it was an amazing moment. Now we're in our, like very early 40s, and she was on complete bed rest. Like, it was a high risk pregnancy just to begin with, age wise, but then you throw in IVF, it was like next level, and everything was going good until we got just about halfway through week 25. So what, normal pregnancies to like 40 weeks. So we're at 25, and she developed, she had her blood pressure shot way, way up. And the doctor said, "Just go to the hospital." He met us there, and her blood pressure was not coming down. What had happened is she developed severe preeclampsia. And the doctor said, "Listen, the blood pressure is not coming down. We have to deliver the baby to save Diana's life." And I was like stunned. I'm like, "What do you mean deliver the baby? Like, I don't even understand. Is it even a baby yet? Like, I don't get what's happening." And he just said, "Listen, if we don't, she's not going to make it." So that threw us into our birth trauma. It was like, go, go, go. She got admitted immediately. And then our whole saga began. And just for those that don't know about preeclampsia is definitely a pregnancy complication. It affects the small blood vessels throughout the body. So that means her blood pressure was sky high. There's often high levels of like protein in the urine. Her organs started shutting down. I mean, after they delivered Grayson, she had water in her lungs. Her brain was swelling. Her organs were swelling. They had to put her in the ICU. I mean, it was just mayhem, total craziness. And and then another term that we never knew anything about, you never really look for this when you're having a baby, is like a premature baby. Everyone's heard of premature, but Grayson was actually a micropreemie. So that means that he was under a certain amount of weight and gestation. He was born literally at 26 weeks and 0 days. And he weighed, like under 800 grams. Like, basically, if you think about it, it was a bunch of maybe 4 or 5 bananas. And he was 12 inches long. So imagine a Subway foot long. That was about it. And then our saga began, really, at that point. I'll never forget. I had Grayson in the NICU, and I had Diana in the ICU, and they're all on the same floor. And it was this moment I completely remember it. It was just completely helpless moment. My whole world, I said, was on one floor. In fact, that's a chapter in the book. My whole world is on one floor. And I remember just feeling alone, feeling helpless. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm always the one that's, quote, in control, and I make everything happen and fix everything and all that, but I couldn't fix this one. So I remember I went into the chapel, and it's not a typical chapel like we would see in the States with pews and benches and all that kind of stuff. It was a very sterile white room, very clean. The floors were glistening white. The benches were white. The windows were frosted. There was flowers that were beautiful flowers, very fragrant on the stand area. And the only thing that was on the wall was a rustic wood framed picture, like a canvas almost painting of Jesus. And it was like a gold flecking frame. And I remember I looked up at that picture and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. I need you. Help me, and I'm sorry I haven't been around, but I need you, you know, uh, save my family. And then I had this feeling like, I got you. You're not alone. And it literally is what got me. It got me to the next minute, the next hour, the next day, and that just started my personal faith walk and getting closer to God and Jesus. And I'll just never forget it. I'll just never forget it. It was a very poignant time in this event for us, but also in my life. And so I just began to pray. And that was it. I just prayed until today, and here we are, like almost 8 years later. But yeah. So the biggest frustration for us was that in that level in the hospital in Mexico, nobody speaks English. Like, I'm talking about the doctors. And Grayson's NICU doctor specifically did not speak English. So we never really knew what was going on. Very, very frustrating. And it kind of finally came to a point where it was a game of charades. It became thumbs up or thumbs down, basically, and we never knew how good the thumbs up were or how bad the thumbs down were, and it was just a very, very frustrating experience. After 3 or 4 days, Diana was able to get out of the ICU. Her body started stabilizing, and finally got to meet Grayson. That was just an incredible moment as well. And that's actually the cover of the book is in that moment, which we'll talk about in a minute. But it was then the thing was, okay, now what? How do we focus on the baby, saving the baby's life? What do the bells and whistles mean? We could only see him 3, which really wasn't full 1 hour times every day. So in the States, it's very different. But in Mexico, it was just 3 1-hour visitations. And many times that was cut early. The bells and whistles would go off. The doctor would just throw us out of the room. We didn't know what was happening. And we went very, we were very public about it. And we went onto our social media and just explained everything that was happening. One of our friends, Mike, he did an interview with us and just said, what is happening? Everybody wants to know, and we were very, very grateful because our community rallied together. Man, that sometimes gets me more emotional than anything, is the way that the community came together for us. Like, who are we? And I'm talking about from prayers, donations, sending flowers. I mean, things that they were doing, fundraisers for us. I mean, amazing. And so that was overwhelming in such an amazing way. And we were finally able to, after 21 days through our network, transport Grayson from Mexico after 21 days to Miami to be put in a proper NICU. And we were there for another 84 days. But hey, listen, thank God every day that Grayson next month in July will turn 8 years old.
I liked how you talked about, because, what probably goes through so many dads' minds that would go through something like that or that are listening to this story. The obvious question is, where is God during this experience that you were going through? And I loved how you shared that in your own way, in experience, you discovered and found him there with you going through it.
Yes. I mean, it forever changed my life, transformed my life, really. And, it's a message that I like to share with people. Sometimes people get weird about talking about God and Jesus. And I'll tell you what, it might be weird until you're on your knees.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that you have. And so what I try to encourage and instill in people is get with God before you need him. Because I firmly believe that if that were the case, knowing what I know now in my studies, almost a decade later, is, through the storm, if you have that confidence and you're able to be there for your people better when you have God in your heart and in your life. And so whatever it is, I mean, we've now been in the community for, 8 years, and I man, people are in it right now, and they just forget, or they've never experienced a relationship with God. And I'm like, get with God, get a verse, get something. You got to get something to get you through this, because that'll be the rock that you can stand upon.
One thing I'm really curious about is, so you're an author, and I know that there's a connection between your experience, your story, and the book that you've written. So how did you become an author from all of this?
It's so funny to hear you say I'm an author. During this whole ordeal, on one of our Facebook Lives, where we were explaining everything, one of our friends said, "This story is so unbelievable, it needs to be a book." And that planted the seed, but still in the moment, we're like, yeah, right. Well, then after, we would tell people, now we're home with Grayson, he's 1, he's 2. And we would tell people our story that didn't know about it. And they were like, oh my gosh, this should be like a movie or a book. It's like that unbelievable. And I thought, interesting. And then it all came to fruition when we were at church, and the pastor said, "Hey, listen, have you ever asked God what he wants you to do with your life?" And I thought, well, that's different. No, I've always said, what do I want? And God helped me get what I want. And he said, let's try it. Close your eyes and just ask. So I said, all right, close my eyes. And it was immediate. Write the book, speak about it, and transform lives. And I thought, oh boy, I could not shake it, couldn't get it out. And within the next day or two, I started the first word that turned into the first sentence, paragraph, chapter. And that was my mantra throughout the whole entire, it took me 26 months to write this book. Write the book, speak about it, transform lives. And lo and behold, 26 months later, it was written. It took 10 months to edit and do the cover design and so forth. And then we put it out into the world. So crazy.
Okay, I love the title of your book. How did you come up with that title?
So I believe that's chapter 10 in the book. But what we ultimately got out of the doctor through the charades game and sound effects and everything is that Grayson obviously needed to breathe. He was on a ventilator system, so that was like apparent. He needs help to breathe, because a lot of babies, as every single one that I know that has been born premature, especially a micropreemie, they don't know to breathe because they're supposed to be inside the womb. They just literally forget to breathe, and so they have to need assistance breathing. So that was that. The doctor said he kind of motioned with his hands that the baby had to eat, and we have to get the poop. If he doesn't poop, that's a big problem. And he would make these noises, all this stuff. And we're like, okay, so he needs to eat and poop. Okay, got that. And then it just kind of hit one day, and we created, which you'll read about in the book, kind of a mantra / song: breathe, eat, poop, and grow. So we kind of added the grow, so Grayson can come home. And that just became our theme. And we knew right away when I started writing the book that's got to be the title: breathe, eat, poop, and grow. It's the only thing that matters in life, as a baby.
What are some examples or testimonies of how your book has helped other men?
I think number one is being vulnerable, which is not a real guy thing to do. It really made other men feel safe that, man, I'm going through all that, but I don't want to show that I'm going through all that. But here's another man who's actually saying all the things that I'm feeling. And I didn't do it for them. I did it because that was healing for me. But in turn, that allowed them to say, okay, I need help, help me. And so that was a huge thing where I'm in groups, premature baby groups, and just for dads, specifically dad NICU groups and so forth. And the ones that sometimes are in the background, just watching and observing and so forth. As soon as you create that vulnerability, share your story, say, listen, I didn't have it all together. I was a mess, but I wish I would have spoken to people. I wish I would have slept. I wish I would have eaten. I wish I would have, taken care of myself a little bit better. All of a sudden they're like, okay, I'm in the background, but now I'm in the foreground. And I thank you for this. I'm gonna do that, or get with God before you need him, figure out a verse, try this one, try that one. And then I see dads getting into the Bible, and creating the relationship with God. And then I know, okay, they're on a path that, they are able to have support that maybe not physical support. I'm not there. Their friends and family may not be, but they can get that support from God. My faith in humanity is restored. My faith in God is restored. I've heard that over and over. In fact, if you look at the reviews on Amazon of the book, Amazon's AI program kind of filters through all of the reviews, and it creates a theme of what people are talking about. And in there, it's, people have developed a relationship with God. So that makes me super happy.
That's amazing. How can dads listening find your book or connect with you?
Yes, so definitely I'm on all social media platforms. Facebook is my name, Brian Heilig. Instagram is Brian S. Heilig. I'm even on TikTok. I'm the Micro Preemie Dad. And I personally, as long as I can find it, sometimes the messages go in weird areas and I have to find message requests and so forth. But I promise that if you direct message me, I will personally get back in touch with you. My website is brianheilig.com. And the book, you can either, if you're in the US, you can order a book that's signed by Grayson and myself off my website, or just simply go to Amazon and search out Breathe, Eat, Poop, and Grow, and it'll come right up there.
And just to make things easier, if you go to thefatherhoodchallenge.com, that's thefatherhoodchallenge.com. If you go to this episode and you're looking for the episode title, From Birth Trauma to Purpose, From Birth Trauma to Purpose, go to this episode, look right below the episode description, and I will have all of the links that Brian just mentioned posted there for your convenience. Brian, as we close, speak to that dad who is struggling with birth trauma and or struggling with their faith and purpose. What is your challenge to them?
If I had to make it one sentence, it would be get with God before you need him, or get with God right now. That's number one. I don't care what anybody says, any advice anybody tries to give you. There is no better advice than what you can receive when you connect with your Father. And, it's nothing that we plan. Birth trauma is definitely not on people's birth plan. So it happens. I just urge you that if let's say you're just found out your wife's pregnant right now. Okay, good. Congratulations. Get with God. Get in the Bible. Do something. Get around people. And if something goes haywire, go there first. Seek God first.
Brian, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I know it's going to help a lot of dads, and it's going to help heal a lot of dads or start them on that healing journey. So thank you so much for your time and for sharing your story with us.
Yes, Jonathan, it is absolutely my pleasure. I'm just following the calling, right? I wrote the book, now I'm speaking about it. So I thank you for this platform and for all that you do for the dads out there and for people either trying to find, struggling with, or wanting to find their faith.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fatherhood Challenge. If you would like to contact us, listen to other episodes, find any resource mentioned in this program, or find out more information about the Fatherhood Challenge, please visit thefatherhoodchallenge.com. That's thefatherhoodchallenge.com.